All right. Let me take you back to the year 2000. I was in elementary school and I was having a sleepover with one of my friends. We were singing karaoke to Britney Spears and dancing to Christina Aguilera. We woke up and had pancakes for breakfast, and it was just so much fun. I remember thinking, this is a fifth grader's dream sleepover. The next morning, I remember my mom came to pick me up, and my friend, probably 10 or 11 years old, just walks right up to her and says, "Me and my parents don't like black people or Mexicans." And my mom paused and said, "You know Chandra's Mexican, right?" Needless to say, I wasn't really allowed to hang out with that friend much after this. But deeper than the loss of a friendship were the questions that I was left with. They don't like Mexicans? What's wrong with Mexicans? What is wrong with me? This wasn't the first time that I'd heard something like this, though. Growing up, I lived in a small, rural Indiana town where, for most of my schooling, my brother and I were the only non-white students. So because of this, I heard jokes and comments about me being Mexican, more often just referred to as brown. And whether they be comments or jokes or remarks from a 10-year-old who doesn't fully understand what she's saying, words hurt. And those words made me feel like I didn't belong and that I wasn't fully included. And wanting to be included is a natural human desire. We are tribal creatures by nature. And in our history, when we were a part of a group, it meant that we were safe. We had people watching out for us, and we were not alone. But if we were shunned and outcast and no longer a part of that group, no one had our back. And we were on our own. And that was scary. And I held that fear inside my 10-year-old body, and what I thought I needed was the acceptance and the safety of others. What I thought I was missing was the approval from those who made me feel like I was not enough. So to achieve this, I started to shrink myself and contort myself and shape-shift myself into a box that I thought others wanted to see. And while I did this, I asked myself questions like, why can't I belong? Why can't they just include me? And I think when many of us hear the word inclusion, we think of trying to change someone else's perspective or opinion on those that they view as different. Whether their differences come from their color, race, size, shape, gender, sexuality, whatever that difference is, they just want others to see them as enough. And I believed this for a long time as well. But now I believe that inclusion starts within, with self-love, self-acceptance, and self-respect. When we can radically embrace all parts of who we are, we leave no room for anyone else to tear us down. We can stop spending our time and our energy on trying to change the minds of those who don't yet see our worth, and instead can start to use that time and energy on loving and accepting all parts of who we are. I believe that when we own our stories and our worth, we create more space for others to reclaim their power as well. We can remember that we are always 100% lovable, we are always fully whole, and we are always enough. We can recognize that our worth is not dependent on anyone else's acceptance or any external situations. It took me a while to fully believe this, but I remember hearing this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And this intrigued me and this got me curious, and I wanted to know, where was I giving my consent away? And how do I put a stop to that? Because how I feel is my power, and I wanted to learn how to take that back. So years after the sleepover incident, I was talking to my therapist and I was drawing her this picture, and it was me inside this box, and I was trying to hold the lid up because I felt like I was being trapped inside of a tomb. I told her, I don't want to be in this box, I don't belong in this box, but I don't know how to get out of this box. One of the things she asked me, she said, so you feel like you don't belong. What do you think that's referring to? And I paused and I thought about it, but I wasn't really sure. This is the first time that I'd vocalized this feeling. So I told her, I was like, I don't really know. And she asked me, she said, do you think it has anything to do with you being Mexican? I said, no, that couldn't be, and I brushed it aside. I had disconnected with those pieces of me long ago. I didn't even know I was still carrying those memories inside of my body. So I leave that session, and a few years go by where I still feel like I'm not fully included. Until one day, I sit down with myself and I just ask, why don't I feel that I belong? And those stories and those memories and those jokes and those remarks all came flooding back to me. And the wounds still felt raw. And I realized, yes, being Mexican did have something to do with me feeling like I was not fully included. While I had been chasing the acceptance and the safety of others, I had slowly started to turn my back on myself. And while I was trying to change the things that I saw as different and therefore deemed as bad, I had stopped including those pieces of myself. And when I saw that, I knew that I could disconnect no longer, because in reality, those are the pieces of me that make me beautiful and unique and, yes, different, but in the most wonderful of ways. And when I realized that I was still carrying that hurt and that pain from wanting to be accepted, wanting to be included, wanting to feel safe, I knew that can continue no longer. That was where I was giving my consent away. And no longer could I let my worth be determined by those who saw me as less than. And when I made this decision that how I felt was my choice, if I felt loved, if I felt accepted, if I felt that I belonged, that was all on me. And then I slowly started to play with the ideas that I am 100% lovable. I am fully whole, and I am always enough. Things started to shift in my life. And when I recognized that my worth is not dependent on anyone else and that I no longer needed to chase that acceptance and safety, I was able to show up for myself in bigger ways. Because when we change our stories, even stories we don't realize are running in the background, we change our lives. And we slowly become the change we'd wish to see in the world because we included ourselves. And I want everyone here to know that these decisions are always available to all of us. And I want to encourage everyone here today to play with the beliefs of owning your worth, reclaiming your power, and no longer giving your consent away to others. I want to share 2 questions with you that I used a lot as I was learning how to accept all the pieces of me. You don't have to answer out loud, but I want to ask these questions and just feel what comes up for you. 1, what parts of me need to be loved and included today? And 2, how can I give myself that love and inclusion? And then most importantly, Follow through. Give yourself what you need. Fill up your own cup and stop waiting for permission from anyone else. That is what I mean when I say inclusion starts within. When we can love all parts of us, when we can accept those pieces that we had accidentally turned our back on, and when we can respect that we've just always been doing our best. We start to cultivate that safety from within, and we know we don't have to chase it any longer. We realize that we can always have our own back. And most importantly, we know that it is safe to be all parts of who we are. Thank you.